how to create a smooth and secure login to Office 365 and other systems. One of the first questions that I often hear is, okay, so it is already quite smooth if I remember the password and so on. So why do you want it? So I just saw this 2 weeks ago. You've probably been there. How secure is my password? And I was quite surprised when I saw this example. But of course, it's not that long, but it's a quite complex password.
Yeah.
And then the question is, how long would it take to crack this? Okay, it's a 10-second. So it gives you a little bit of a reflection of maybe it's time to move to something else than only password. And some other statistics, so 63%. So what can that be? It's more than 6 out of 10 of breaches are involving a default or stolen password, or in many cases weak, even if I could consider the last one that we saw as almost not weak, but a little bit too short. But anyway, and half of the companies, they are really wanting to have the same security, but they have different solutions for different business applications. And that's a little bit of the topic of today, that how do you log into, do you have specific security solutions to access your cloud ERP, your Office 365, or your on-prem applications. So finally, then the last one is 1 out of 10 that are looking to get secure access to a cloud-based service like Office 365, saying that they have the same security level across the organization, both for on-prem and cloud applications. So there is clearly a need here. And to be able to even start with this, you need to have an ID. And most of you have maybe even many IDs at the moment. And if you look at the everyday user and the challenge that you're put through, it is so that because you have a lot of different requirements in your everyday work, it could be so that you are accessing Office 365, you have a secure email solution, you have a digital signing solution, you have the access to on-prem data or to cloud-based data. It could be an ERP system. Then the user is challenged every day of having different methods and different authenticators to different systems. And this is when we are out talking to, this is, so it's a little bit, how do you want it to be? How do you want to go away from this situation to maybe this? A lot of our customers, including ourselves, we are having a very mobile and global workforce, where we're seeing that the mobile is for sure being one of the most central devices for the employee. And looking at when access services being any of those that I went through and you see on the screen, we see that the main driver is that mobile first. You need to have a secure mobile solution that is very easy for the end user to use. So the challenge then, that if I would symbolize this, that I think that the users are not just unsecure, but they are also struggling with their everyday situation at the moment, because they have so many authentication means. And it's a little bit how to transfer, how to move away, because I think that a lot of you that are on the call, you are in the situation where you have realized this a long time ago, but how could you move to a happy end user and a mobile end user? So is it even possible to do self-service ID elevation, for example? ID elevation is that maybe you have multiple credentials for users. It can be one-time password tokens, mobile, SMS, or or even hardware tokens. You have username and passwords, and it may be so that you have a software-based email S/MIME certificate. How can you do a self-service ID elevation? How can you move the user from being having different credentials and being let's say semi-secure? So just to give you an example, what we did for one customer, we implemented a solution where the end users straightforward got an email where they clicked and they were able to then go to self-service portal. On this portal, they to provide their username and password, their ID credentials. This was checked, and then we also checked if they were on corporate network and if they were on a corporate laptop. And then they actually had a hardware-based OTP token that we then prompted the user in the self-service flow to enter. Usually they only use that for VPN connection. And when that was done in the flow, they got the possibility to actually request a mobile EID, a virtual smart card, or a smart card based EID. So this was combining in the end, they actually had a global S/MIME certificate that was soft, and they felt that they didn't really had 100% control over, but it was still some kind of means of securing who the requester was. So we finalized the request of a mobile EID, signing the request with the S/MIME certificate. So this is basically the one example of how you can use this Smart ID digital access platform to and the self-service portal to transfer users. So just to give you an introduction on how this could be used. In this case, I've just recorded a video where I'm using a self-service station that is placed in a reception area. And this, I will hope that this will work and that you will see the picture quite good. And I will go to the next slide, and I'll start it like this. So this is me then. I go to the self-service portal. It can be used as for visitor management, but in this case, I actually have my corporate ID card. I click that I want to authenticate myself with smart card. I enter my my PIN code. And I click OK, and then I'm automatically transferred into the application portal where I have access to the services that I can access with my strong credential, being in this case a smart card. So in this case, I click on issue mobile credential. So I'm using the strong ID on the card to request a mobile credential. I'm showed the QR code. I'm scanning that is actually provisioning the strong mobile EID. You can see that it's in just a few seconds, the profile is issued to the mobile. And from that, I've actually derived the mobile ID to my phone. And when I've done that, I will also just quickly show that if I go to the same portal, just for demonstration purpose, I choose to click on logging in with mobile EID. I select to sign in. I get the push to my mobile and I authenticate. And I'm logging on to the same service, but now I get a different set of applications depending on the fact that I'm actually accessing the portal with a different identity. Not an identity, a different authentication mechanism would be better to say. Okay, so moving forward, this is about me being in the center as a user within the organization. And what you saw was actually that I have been forced to have my card with me, and I'm still having that because it is really the central of me moving around in our facilities, going through doors, secure print release, and also showing both partners and customers that I am a proper employee of the company. But I'm also able, with that very strong identity, to issue the mobile strong ID and get access to all type of different applications, being in the cloud or on premise. So it's really about flexibility and multifunctional. And very important in this case, I think it's to mention that a lot of our customers see now that they have a need for the card, and they will still have that for a few years, even if you can have a visual ID in the mobile. When you eventually maybe lose your card or wash it in the washing machine or something, then you have a very strong mobile EID, that a strong, you can actually request to get a new smart card produced. So then you don't have to, you can do that fully self-service. You don't have to call IT or go to some receptionist to order it. So just you will see live, but one question that I quite often is it possible to combine flexible, secure, and mobile? I've been in the business for a very long time, and secure and mobile have for a long time been recognized to be connected with SIM-based solutions. But that is for sure going away, and it's also disappearing on the fact that SIMs hardware. SIM cards are even disappearing in new mobile phones, so that's not an option. So looking at personal mobile, that is the center of what we're talking about here. It's an advanced mobile identity client. These are a few screenshots that just show that the picture. You can also see a signing request, and on the right-hand side you can see when you have a specific need to maybe as an additional authentication mechanism, also have the time-based OTP in the same app. And finally, you have the one example of where the user is trying to simplify a little bit too much of his everyday, picking a PIN code that is too easy to guess, so to say. So I think that before we go into more technical details, I will show two demos here. So one is to show you how it actually looks if you go for a push-based two-factor authentication in Office 365, and then show the same solution with time-based one-time password in the same app. So first, how it works if you have different devices. So if you would imagine now that you are accessing on maybe a laptop or a pad or something, and you have your strong credentials based on your smartphone, then we can have a look at this. So you have the strong credentials on the phone. You click that you want to access. You enter your username and you click sign in. You get a picture display that actually enables you to secure that this is the right right authentication that you're approving. In this case, I have my Touch ID enabled, and I only put my finger on top. And then in this case, I end up in the application portal, and I click Office 365. And when I come in there, you can see that I'm single sign-on. I can start to work directly. I'm not asked to enter any type of password in addition to my first authentication. And you can see here as well, if I go to G Suite, it's the same thing, that I'm automatically logged on, and you can see that I'm the same user. So this is showing how I log into a service with the push function, with a certificate-based authentication on the mobile phone. In this case, I'm actually using the offline one-time password solution. So I click that I want to generate a one-time password. I have to put my finger on the Touch ID. It generates time-based OTP, and I'm using that to sign in towards the service. In this case, you see that we've just, for demonstration purposes, just showing that because you're using a weaker authentication method, you're not getting the same resources available for you. Actually go through a portal, but you can at the same time go directly towards a service. This is in many cases an end user would actually go directly and want to access and log into Office 365, for example. So this is just to give you a very quick introduction on doing a little bit quicker demo on the same device. So in this session, I will show you how it looks if you are on the same device and you're actually wanting to access the portal and seeing what different applications you have available for you. So you have your phone, and in this case, you click it. This will go a little bit faster. You click personal that you want to use your certificate, and you push mode. You sign in, and you automatically get the push authentication. You approve that with your Touch ID, and your authentication is successful, and you're logged in to the portal, and you're able to then select which of the applications that are displayed for you that you want to access, and you're automatically signed in with single sign-on in the underlying application. So as you see, this is a little bit, it goes a little bit faster here, but this is just trying to show you how it looks if you're doing it on the same device. So I think it's time to go in and have a little bit closer look on the technical details.
Exactly. I would just like to mention something regarding the demos. As you can see, we showed you the web-based applications in Office 365. Microsoft also have the native apps, the Outlook app, the on Windows, on Mac, on iOS and Android and so on. And the Word and Excel and so on. So you can also use the solution, of course, to log on with the native apps directly to Office 365, even though we showed the web-based applications.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how we do ourselves.
Yeah,
actually. Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will continue now to describe a little bit on what's in the digital access module. And if you simplify, we can do a lot with the digital access module. But if you simplify, we can pick out two major features. One is authentication, and preferably strong authentication. We have lots of different methods, a broad set of two-factor authentication methods. We also support lots of national EIDs, preferably in the Nordics, but we also support EIDAs, so we can use European EIDs to authenticate to the platform. And the other thing beside authentication, that's a big feature in the platform, is to provide access to applications, as we showed you with 365 and with Google Apps. But we can also access on-premises application if you still reside some applications on your premises. And we do this, of course, with single sign-on. So when we talk about the features, we talk about strong authentication and we talk about single sign-on rather than providing access, because single sign-on is something you would require as well. You don't want to log on to any application just to get the access. So it's the two major features are strong authentication and access with single sign-on. We also have some nice modules regarding self-service, so that you can manage your credentials by yourself as a user. If you lose your credential, if you get a new mobile device or something and would like to provision your identity, you can do that without contacting IT. You can use our self-service parts there. when it comes to 5, we have seen G Suite, but there are also lots of other applications supporting the SAML standard that we can provide access to. And we also are part of federations like EIDAS. It's also based on SAML. We have some Swedish federations in Zambi and School Federation, and also the current national EID scheme in Sweden is also based on SAML. And of course, we support all those in the platform. If we talk about authentication methods, we have lots of different methods. In this table, we compare some of the different methods we have. I will click here. So the focus today is on personal mobile. All the demos are regarding personal mobile and so on. But within the platform, we support lots of other different authentication methods. In this table, we have strong authentication methods. All are using two password or biometrics combined with something you have, the second factor, where you have a smart card, you have a hardware token, or you have a mobile phone with a mobile ID. And most of our customers actually use several of those because it might be difficult to find one specific authentication method that fits all the users. You might have employees, you might have partners, you might have citizens, and you might have consumer customers. And to find a way to authenticate all the users, you might combine personal mobile with a national ID, for example, or an OTP-based token or something to reach all your users. So most of our customers, they don't use just one authentication method, but maybe you would like to keep down the number of different methods to make it easier to manage it.
Just to add on the side there, it is also a very good backup feature if you happen to lose your major strong authentication method.
Yeah, as you showed, if you have your smart card and if you have a new mobile device, you can use your smart card to actually enroll to your mobile phone, and you can do it the other way as well, so that you have several credentials that you can use to enroll new ones. On next page, to be able to access a service, you need to first select the way you should authenticate. In this picture here, we have a list of lots of different methods. Normally, you would like to narrow down this list so that, and we have a policy-based method to show the authentication methods, so that if you access a service that requires mobile ID or a smart card, for example, we only show those options when you try to access the service, so that the user cannot select another pair of credentials which is not valid for the service. So you need to select the way you like to authenticate, you authenticate, and then you access the service, and it could be then cloud-based application, it could be service provider applications, or it could be on-premise applications. Once you logged on, Daniel also showed you that we have a built-in portal, an application portal. A list of the services I have access to. It's of course based on what pair of credentials I used to log on, but it's also based on my role within the company or if I'm a customer and so on. So we will only show the applications that I actually have access to based on who I am and what I logged on with and the time of day and so on. And also the portal here, it's as Daniel also mentioned, you can access the services directly without going through the portal. Then we will lead the user directly to the actual service, not requiring them to go to the portal and select application there. Also, if you build up applications for partners, for customers and so on, you might want them to go directly to they might only have one application. Then we just send the user directly to the application, so you don't see this menu at all then. So when it comes to deploy the system, then we have 2 different deployment options, but it's both are very smooth and fast. The options to deploy are on-premise or as a private cloud. If you decide to deploy on-premise, the platform is delivered as a virtual appliance, so it's very easy to just drop into your VMware or Hyper-V system, start up and make some basic configurations, and then you're up and running. And if you decide to go for the private cloud, then it's of course the vendor of the private cloud. It could be Nexus or one of our partners that deploy this, but it's very smooth for us or our partners as well to deploy. And then within the system, when you have deployed it, it's very easy to configure different things. We have wizard-based configuration to make it simpler for the administrators to set up new authentication methods, new connections to new cloud applications, and so on. And when it comes to the SAML standard, we support metadata, of course. We support automatic metadata, which is normally used in larger federations like the Swedish EID Federation and so on. Everything to make it easy to set up, and also to make it easy to maintain and be up to date all the time. And then when you set up the system, we also provide all the documentation about our products, the digital access module and our other products on doc.nexusgroup.com. If you haven't had a look here, please go there because you find lots of information regarding our products. It's easy to find information. There is a search tool. It's easy to use. And it contains technical information. It contains guides and tutorials, both written and recorded with screen recording and video and so on. And we continuously add more and more tutorials and information here, and you can find release notes and everything that's documented regarding the product should be available here. Okay.
Good. Thanks, Stefan. I'm also really happy to see that we've got so many questions during the session. So I think that we'll jump in here to the questions, and hopefully you're able to see us again. And nice to see so many online. So Sophie here, back office, has been very nice to prepare a few questions for us that you have. I can see here that we won't have time to answer all of them, but I think that we will have like 4 or 5 of them answered.
Yep.
Good, so let's jump into it. First, there is a very good and precise question. How secure is this app that you're providing?
Yes, as you mentioned, it's used by some as a national EID. And that means that it must be very secure. Otherwise, we wouldn't be there and have those customers. So first of all, we have lots of customers with very, very high security requirements. And also when we started to create the app from the beginning, we had a very high level of security from the beginning, and it's confirmed since we got all those nice customers. And we also think that our developers are doing a great job, but to improve the quality, we use a third party to continuously evaluate and pen test and whatever you do with apps to make sure that it's really secure. So we do that on continuous basis. We also use third-party components to harden the app, obfuscate it, and so on. So that the actual app should be very, very secure. And then besides that, we always select very secure ways to provision, for example. We integrate with the Touch ID on iOS devices and the corresponding on Android, and so on. We use 2048 bits keys. Also, when you provision an ID to the cell phone, we generate the key inside the phone. It never leaves the phone, and even if you do a backup, we don't back up the private key. The user also select the private key. And you can use also the Touch ID then to unlock access to the application.
Okay.
To your ID.
Let's go for what's the next question. So yeah, you talked about how fast is an implementation.
Yeah, the answer on that is of course that it depends on lots of different factors. But to set up a pilot to achieve what you showed here, it's done in a few days. You deploy the virtual appliance, you can have just one single machine. You set it up for a production environment. You would like probably to have redundancy. You would like to split up the architecture for better security and so on. And then it takes some more time. But just to set up this and get it to work, it's done in a few days, and then you can be in production or running a pilot within a week maybe or something.
Yeah. Okay, good. Of course, I would say in the time span, we talked a little bit about this ID elevation part and so on. If you go into migrating from different IDs and so on, it's a little bit, it adds a few weeks to a process like that, because you have to really integrate.
But one benefit there is also then you can enroll in a software. You don't need to enroll all the users at the same time, because you can continue to use your smart card to access the services. And the user can select themselves when they should enroll the mobile ID.
Okay, good. So time flies. Let's take a few other questions here.
Yes, there is one question regarding what methods we included. I mentioned before that we support national EIDs and federations. We support Nordic EIDs and EIDAS and so on. Within the product, we have support for OAuth hardware tokens. We have support for SMS-based OTPs. We have the personal mobile in two flavors actually. One with a push or online based on certificates, and then we also have the OTP version, which is quite newly added actually to personal mobile, which means that you can use personal mobile both for the push and generate OTPs to be used with our digital access platform, or to be used with a third-party service.
Yeah.
That means that you can use one mobile app to authenticate on several places with, and you can have several credentials in the app actually. Yeah, I believe that's.
Yeah, good. And I think that we got an additional question here on paper as well. So a question about the recording of the webinar. Of course, this will be provided to you as a part of the follow-up of the seminar. So you will get the recording. And then we got one additional thing from Sophie here as well that someone asked. What about this if a customer, if you compare this solution to, for example, Microsoft's Authenticator, so why would you? What does this bring to the table?
Yeah, I believe we partly answered this question during the demos, because we showed you that it's not only about Office 365. We ourselves use Office 365 a lot, and it's great applications, but we also have other applications, both cloud-based, and we have our on-premise-based applications. So we can use our digital access platform and our smart ID concept for lots of different services. It's not only about Office 365, and we have the connections to the national EIDs and so on. And one thing that we also didn't mention here, I believe, if I didn't miss it, was that we can provide credentials for both digital and physical access. So this webinar is about digital access, and preferably then for Office 365, but we can address other scenarios within the physical access as well.
Yep. Okay, good. So I can see time flies. We've been ongoing for close to 45 minutes. So I think that we will more or less wrap up here. We have got some additional questions in the chat, you can see. So, but we will get back to you shortly with feedback on those questions. And as this question that I got on the note, we are providing you with links to the material that we've showed to you, and as well the recording of this session. And here on the screen, you see the contact details of the email address for both me and Stefan. So we are happy to take any questions or feedback that you would have. So I think, was it anything more that we wanted to say today?
I would like to highlight another question here actually regarding, because it's also something that a question actually we got a lot from customers. If they would like to have much control of their mobile devices, you normally run an MDM tool. And then we get the question, how does MDM tools then work with personal mobile? And the answer to that is that it works perfectly together with MDM tools. We still use, would you say, similar way to provision the ID, but you want to like it to be even more smooth through the MDM tool. So we still generate the key inside the cell phone. The user needs to select the PIN and so on, but you don't need to log on to a self-service portal, scan QR code and so on, because you get all this from the MDM tool instead. So when you start the mobile app the first time, it will automatically go into this onboarding process and generate the keys and so on. So it's very smooth, and it's easy both for the end user and for the people managing the MDM solution.
That's a very good point. We actually have a lot of customers that are now starting to use the personal mobile in combination. I think it's a lot of AirWatch and Mobile Iron customers.
Yes.
So. Okay, very good that you were able to catch that question before we thank for today.
Yes.
So thanks, and very nice to have so many online listening to us, and so we would like to thank you for today, and looking forward to see you soon again on the next seminar. So thank you very much, and take good care.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.